podcast. I am Cami Clements, your host, and today I am talking to a very unsung hero because this man has a job that I don't think a lot of us really think about. Please welcome Tanner Christensen, a very big editor.
Uh,
Hi,
Thank
Tanner.
you. Thank you for that intro. Yes, hi. Good to be here, Cami. Thank you for having me on. This is great.
So, Tanner, you have done a directorial debut, and we will get to that in a moment, but you've spent a lot of your career as an editor. Now, I want to say that I have heard it said more than once that editing is what saved slash made Star Wars A New Hope.
I
Because without the editors, it would have been kind of slow, kind of boring. We didn't really know what was going on because we weren't familiar with the world and all of that. And the editors are the ones that made it into an action film and kind of made it what it is. So I think that there are a lot of really important traits and a lot of good qualities that a movie gets from editing, and it's really an unsung job. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You were referring to George Lucas's wife at the time, was, the
That's right. Yeah.
editor, along with a couple other folks. Yeah, man, I've read books about that. That it was a mess. You think you have good ideas in your script, and then you go out and shoot them, and maybe they weren't good ideas, or maybe you weren't able to execute them the way that you thought you were going to be able to. Then all of that ends up in the lap of an editor, and it's like, well, you gotta still make it good. I think it's a job that a lot of people don't really understand. It's hard to give much praise to a job that you don't really understand. And two, it's a job that if it's done well, you don't really notice it. You don't really think about it.
Exactly.
It's kind of an invisible craft. Notice bad editing often, right? Like that. When you see it bad, you're like, oh man, who did this? The good stuff you don't notice.
So if you're an unsung hero, then it means you're doing your job.
I guess so. If nobody mentions how crappy the editing was, you can usually be like, oh, I must have done pretty good. I guess I did all right.
So besides George Lucas's wife, are there any editors that you have followed and that have kind of inspired you and you wanted to emulate them?
Oh man, I mean, a million of them, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to just be an editor, to actually know how to do that, that's one thing. But there's not very many editors that are good at that and then can also put into words how they do their job or what makes them
Uh-huh.
good or whatever. So there's really only a few that are kind of like that. And so, I mean, anything like that, I've just devoured. Walter Murch has done a bunch of books about editing. I don't know that I've ever thought about the craft in any of the ways that he had without reading his words, wouldn't have ever thought of it that way. There was a book recently by Paul Hirsch, who was another editor on Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, he wrote a book not too long ago that
Oh.
it talked about that experience and everything. Anyway, it was very good. But I mean, that you could go down the list of, Spielberg's editors or Scorsese's edit. Like, I mean, there are just like these top people that you probably have never heard their names.
Right.
Um, but are instrumental in making some of the movies that people love today. Another example would be Jaws, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest movies ever. What they were shooting was just like a pile of crap. Like it just was not working. The
A
sharks never
big
worked.
fake shark.
Yeah, like they just couldn't fit. And then and really the editor D.D. Allen figured it out. Like, well, okay, you know what? We're not going to show the shark. She pieced this together and showed it to Spielberg, and he was like, "Oh man, she saved me." There's tons of people you've never heard of before that have been instrumental in making the movies that you know and love today.
Wow. That's incredible. That it really is. I remember hearing about the director of the first Hunger Games movie. He acted as his own editor. He had a very certain vision. And I remember one particular scene, it was right after we meet Rue. And instead of just cutting to the next scene, he put the betting board and it
Mm.
showed the odds of Rue winning and the odds of Thresh winning. And it just showed one more split second example of how cold this world is and
Hmm.
how heartless. And it was a total mood changer.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing that particular story and it amazed me. And I know that there are some directors who are very involved with editing because they have a very specific vision and they want it to look a certain way.
Hmm. Yeah, that I
Uh,
mean it can be dangerous to edit your own stuff. Danger is you fall in love with it so much on set that you're not impartial when you're looking at it in the edit room and like, oh, do we really need this? And so anyway, you can the movie can suffer as a result of that.
mm-hmm.
But a couple Sundays ago, Honora won Best Editing, and it was edited by the director, Sean Baker. So it certainly happens that for the feature that I have just finished, I cut it myself.
I was
Uh,
going to ask you that. Yeah.
yeah, I joke that partially because we didn't have the budget for anybody good, so I had to do it. But it was like
Talking about.
that's what I've done for 20 years. I felt comfortable doing it, and luckily I was able to kind of surround myself with some outside voices to help point out things that like maybe I wasn't seeing or maybe I was too attached to or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
to try to short circuit that tendency to fall in love with what you have and not get ruthless with the edit.
That's a really good point. Okay, so you have done a lot of different kinds of editing in your career. You've done short films, you've done TV series, you've done feature length films, you've done faith promoting, you've done horror, you've done documentary. Wow, I mean, you've got a whole lot of experience under your belt of doing all different kinds. What would you say is the biggest difference between editing a TV series and editing a film besides time?
Sure. Yeah, no, oh, that's a good question. One of the reasons here, because I'm in Utah, I'm not in LA. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't like we just always have feature films coming through that are always the same thing and you just kind of get sucked into that system and you're working in that. So
Sure.
like, just by the nature of where I live, like I think it just kind of made my experience more broad where it was, oh, now a TV show's coming in, oh, now we got a feature, now a bunch of commercials or what. I mean, it just is kind of different all the time. There are a lot of similarities, but really between doing a TV series and a movie, I mean, it's typically still about characters, and you're trying to find the story, make the best performances and best version of the story that you can with the material you have. There are like other constraints if it's like a doc TV series, which I've done a few of those, versus like a narrative series. I mean, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times if you're doing a doc series or film, there's no script. The editor's the one that's figuring out what the story is, combing through all that footage and trying to figure it out. It's not written on the page that it's this scene then this scene or whatever. There's no roadmap like that, so you're really just uh, kind of stabbing in the dark trying to find what works and eventually mold it into a film. TV series versus feature, I mean, there are like different time constraints, especially if you're doing like broadcast TV. Like there's like
Oh,
you have to
yeah.
hit very specific timing versus like a feature, whatever you want it to be. There's also like a different hierarchy on a TV show. Director of a TV show isn't necessarily the top creative. There's usually a showrunner that's overseeing all the episodes. So there's maybe more layer of notes and things coming back. So it can depend. It is like a two different worlds, but really at the end of the day, you're still just trying to make a good story.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite genre that you enjoy working the most with?
That is a good question. I don't I really have a good time in almost any of them. I love that about this job that's so varied. If I get on something that I just can't stand and I hate, well, in a couple months it's going to be over, and then I move on to something else, and it's pretty good. I've gotten quite a bit of doc experience lately. I don't know that I would say, oh, that's my favorite, but I just like, especially in the last few years, that's kind of what's fallen in my lap. And
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge of trying to make a movie or a show or whatever out of just a bunch of random footage that's been brought to you with sometimes not a very clear direction.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there is, but sometimes there isn't. It just depends on the project. Anyway, really, I just kind of enjoy the challenge of any of it, and I just love movies, so I game to kind of work on whatever, really.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a really, really hard question
Oh boy.
because I know that projects are like your babies. What is your favorite short film that you've edited, and what is your favorite feature length film? I won't ask you about TV series because an episode can change, but what's your favorite short film that you've edited and your favorite feature length film that you've edited?
Oh man. Let me tell you this. So my TC, my dad,
Mm-hmm.
who is really why I got into this, right? I mean,
Of course.
if he was a garbage man, I'd be doing that. But he always said, well, if the last thing you did isn't your favorite, man, that kind of looks dumb. Like, oh man, back in the 70s, I did a great thing, and then it's kind of been crap since then. Um,
He
so
said the exact same thing to me when I interviewed him.
that's what he says every time. So
Yeah.
I'll try to be a little different with that and think back a little more. I'll say my short, my very first one that I really did for him, it was with him, called Only a Stonecutter.
He
And
said that one too.
oh
And
really? Oh, that's funny.
yes, I love that one. I
Oh
I
good.
watched it just recently and oh my gosh.
That was kind of his testing ground for that was like really the first kind of thing I'd done for him. I had been an intern at the motion picture studio in Provo.
Sure.
I'd been editing for a while, and then even in high school, my dad had bought an Avid system back in '90s. It was back when they literally cost like $100,000. You didn't have iMovie on your computer. That stuff didn't exist. If you wanted to
No.
edit something, you needed something like an Avid, and it was very expensive and prohibitive to get into. I did have like experience because I would go play with that, making my own dumb little neighborhood videos with my friends. It really hadn't done anything professionally. He let me spread my wings on this short film on Only a Stonecutter, and it was a good experience to kind of see maybe I can do this. Sure, it was actually painful for him to work with me on that. Like looking back, I'm sure it was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't know what he's doing, barely limping along. Like, okay, and he just dragged me through it. But it turned out good. We were proud of it. My feature though, I'm gonna go along with what he said, and it's got to be my latest one, film called Standout.
Yep. We're getting
And
to that in just a second.
yeah. Anyway, that's been the I mean it's been 2 years in the making, and um I feel like I can hang my hat on that one. So yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but it looks amazing from what I've seen. I have to tell you, I really agree with you with Only a Stonecutter. And there's a moment that I think was probably you because it seems like an editing thing. And so I want to hear what your take on this is. But when he goes in to milk the cow
Hmm.
and he gets kicked, and there's that flash of what looks like an x ray
Hmm.
because it's the bone in his leg breaking, and you hear that crack. And then he's all of a sudden on the ground in pain. So was that you? Because that's the moment that sticks out the most to me. That would be an editing triumph.
Congrats on even noticing that. Most people I think blink and they miss that because it really is just a few frames. But that I can't take credit for the idea of that. The idea of that was TC's. He was like, I think it'd be cool to do like just a quick, kind of X-ray thing. But we didn't have anything to cut to. So that was another proving ground where it was like, well, I can make it. I will just make it. I'm also like a somewhat of a VFX guy. I've done that. Done that for 20 years too, just mostly as a way to, it started as just like I wasn't busy enough as an editor, so maybe I can do VFX as well, and keep the income coming in. And anyway, that was an early attempt at that. Like, oh, hey, well, all right, that's a cool idea, Dad. Let me see what I can do. And anyway, just go, figure that out over a couple hours or whatever, and he was sold, man. He was like, hey, this kid maybe wasn't a huge mistake to hire him, just a little one. Nepotism strikes again.
Well, I have to tell you, now knowing that you made that graphic, it's not even an existing picture. You made that. That's incredible. And it's perfectly placed and it's perfectly timed and it was very effective. So hats off.
Good. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk for just a minute about the film behind me, Escape
Sure.
from Germany, because I have to tell you, the whole film is incredible. I love it so much. But one thing that I've noticed the more that I watch it, and I won't mention how many times it's been now, but I am noticing that it's the editing that is making it so suspenseful. If you missed the interview with TC Christensen, you can find this movie for rent or for sale on Amazon Prime. Go watch it. It is incredible. And even though it is about missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints in 1939 getting out of Germany, it is a movie for all walks of faith, all walks of life to enjoy, and you will be at the edge of your seat. But when Elder Siebold is doing all of that traveling to try to find all of the stranded missionaries, and he's just going from place to place and town to town, there was such a quick pace. I did not get bored at all. And you see him going up the steps and falling asleep, standing on the train. And then he finds them. And then there's the shot from the train where he's holding his bag and kind of nodding goodbye. It was so moving and very quick pace. So you had to pay attention. And I'm really feeling and noticing that a lot of the suspense had to do with the editing. So please tell us a little bit about what editing Escape from Germany was like for you.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned that sequence. That sequence of Elder Siebold going out and getting all these missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that was not shot until almost the very end. Like they did a main unit as much as they could do. They did here in Utah, uh,
Right.
mostly up at the Heber Railroad station up there. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, to make it look like we were 1930s Germany, they ended up just doing a few days shooting in Budapest,
Mm-hmm.
and that all came quite a bit later during the edit. We had a lot of the film cut by then, but then that sequence, when we were kind of waiting on all these other shots, they were just going to go grab as much as they could around all these old train stations to make it look like he really went everywhere, and and really up the production value. Remember, while editing that sequence specifically, I mean, we're getting near the end of the film, and typically, when you're getting near the end of the film, that's not the time to drag things out. The pace should start picking up,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of barreling towards the finish. So, you know, that was one of those times where it's like, oh, we ended up with a lot of great shots in these really cool old train stations, like, but we can't like sit here and spend a bunch of time on them, like thinking
Mhm.
how cool they look or whatever, like because it just didn't serve the story. Got to keep it going, keep the pace going because you get it too within, you understand what he's doing within a few
Mhm.
shots. It'd be boring if you just drag that out for too long. That is an editing thing. I mean, if you hold on for something too long or too short, or I mean, it really affects how you view something, or if you're
Mhm.
not juxtaposing the right things back and forth. uh yeah, it can rather than be suspenseful, it could be something else. It could be a totally different emotion you're feeling. So I mean, we yeah spent a lot of time in the edit, trying to work that out. um and the especially, with the kind of films we do, it's like on a very low budget. We're doing these, with not the same resources that a Hollywood movie would have to do, but we're still trying to like get as close to their level as quality as we can. um so there's a lot of not just editing that goes on, but then a lot of like hopefully invisible visual effects to try to make crowds look bigger, not putting Nazi flags everywhere, and just those kinds of things to just really try to up the production value of the film.
Uh, you succeeded. At least in my opinion. I was telling your dad, this holds up to any film that I would see in Hollywood. It's it is
Thank
one
you.
of my new favorites. And all of the ones that you guys have worked on, Ephraim's Rescue, 17 Miracles, Cokeville Miracle, which you have posters of them behind you.
I
Those are
do.
all experiences. I don't just call them watching a movie. Those are experiences. And it's even better that they're based on true stories. So they just, yeah, long answer short, you succeeded.
Well, thank you. You and my mom feel the same way, so that's good.
Well, you can add my mom in there.
Oh,
So,
good. All right, we got three, up to three now.
okay, let's talk about your directorial debut, Standout. Congratulations, by the way. That is so incredible for you. You must be so proud.
I man, it has been something I've hoped to be able to do for a long time. It is
Hmm.
super exciting to be at this point with it, where we're done with the film. We have had really great responses. It's not out yet, but
Hmm.
we're trying to build towards a theatrical release, hopefully in the fall.
And are we starting in the Northwest and then
You
spreading
know,
out, or
we don't know. So a little bit of a different beast than like what TC's films have been.
okay?
Most of TC's films have been very geared towards kind of like a Utah audience,
Hmm.
audience for the church members, and this is not. It's not specific to any religion or anything at all. While
Okay,
certainly the subjects in the film are um, God-fearing, faithful
sure.
people. It just the specific faith didn't really play a role in
Oh,
the
okay.
story. So we're hoping that it can have a wider appeal. I can't say yet where it will start and go, because we're still talking to distribution partners about how we're going to do this. So I don't know. We may end up just doing it how we always do. We have a distributor that we love, and she does a great job. And but we're just looking at want to look at every option, especially where this is a different kind of film. We've never done a documentary before, even though it is still a inspirational true story film. It's kind of well known that documentaries are harder to get people to go out to the theater for. Um,
Yeah.
but we think this. I mean, this is a film that deserves to be seen in a theater, and we hope people will support it. But it's just how do we get the message out and get as many people to be able to experience it and see it as possible.
Can you give us a little taste of what it's about?
The film is about a boy that I went to high school with named Ben Care. He was a couple years younger than me, and I remember, seeing him early on, and he's a kid that he looks different. He looks different than most people because you come to find out because he has a condition called Cruzon syndrome. It's a facial
Mm-hmm.
difference that he was born with. It affects how his face grows, and it required him to have all these surgeries in order to give room to his brain to grow and to yeah, try to help his face, be able so he can breathe, and really was given by doctors, a different prognosis of what his life would be like. It
Mm-hmm.
was, you're uh, talking to his parents that they, told him he's going to live a different life. He's just not. It's not going to be uh, like you and me, like everyone else. It's going to be limited. I think partially because of his parents and just also because of who Ben is. It turned out, yeah, his life is different, but it's not just, it's not limited. It's exceptional. It's different because he's done everything he can to stand out, to embrace his difference and become a inspiring and better person, and lift others because of it.
Wow, that's amazing. And he becomes a wrestler, isn't that correct?
That's right. As a young kid, looking for something to help him build confidence,
Mm-hmm.
against his doctor's ideas of safety. And I mean, he's having these surgeries. They're worried he can't do contact sports. He's gonna hurt his face, whatever. But he was just so determined that he starts wrestling. He wasn't very good at it, but he keeps at it and just outworked everyone. So much so that by the end of his career, he becomes Utah Valley University's first ever All-American wrestler. Um, and so the film uh, follows that journey of him figuring out how to overcome all these obstacles, often through wrestling, and then and beyond with he wants he wants to have a family. He wants to be able to get to a point where he's overcome uh, his demons and can share his story. And anyway, so the film follows his journey and is he's the most inspiring person I know. He really truly is. He's an incredible human, and we're so excited for the world to be able to get to know Ben Care.
What did Ben say when you approached him?
I called him and left a message. He didn't answer, and come to find out, it was because he had just got done hiking Mount Kilimanjaro and didn't have service. And so when he got back down to the base camp and called me back, I think he thought I was trying to sell him on a multi-level marketing company or something. He was like, because I was like, oh man, I got this great opportunity for you. I did not do a good job of pitching this project to him. But eventually, he figured out what we were there for, and he had been approached by a number of people before
Oh.
to do a similar project, um, and he had not felt good about it. And
Mm.
I for whatever reason, uh, maybe our track record or just meeting with him for whatever or that we've known each other for a while, he felt comfortable, felt like the time was right, and he's been the greatest partner you could have in something like this. He really has been amazingly supportive and amazingly vulnerable in sharing uh, some really difficult parts of his life that I think most people would not be willing to share and talk about. And not only him, but his family, as well. His family, extended family, friends,
Hmm.
were amazingly raw in what they were willing to talk about and tell and share publicly. Um, it made the project really special.
I bet conducting those interviews was hard.
Well, I mean, especially because I'm new at this. I'm, it's like half my inexperience, and then the other half is like, man, we're dealing with things that are really hard, like stuff that they don't want to have to relive. Uh, and some of it like very personal. And anyway, they were wonderful to work with though. Luckily, very trusting in us. We tried to explain to them what our vision was for the film, how,
Mhm.
even though yes, we're going to go through these hard things, like it's not a movie that's focused on these difficult moments. It's not out to paint any one person as a villain or as a, as somebody to root against. We just need to see these dark moments so that then when Ben overcomes them, like the light shines even brighter.
Oh, so would you say that the interviews were probably the hardest part of doing the film?
I mean that we did over 50 interviews, I think about 54. Uh Certainly that was a lot of time and challenge, like, a challenge to get to make sure we were talking about the right things and getting the right moments on film. But at least for me, I guess the editor in me, it's like, man, the tough part was then how do you take all of those interviews and
Um,
turn this into a 90-minute movie, right?
mhm.
Which, we don't have 50, there's not 54 people interviewed in the final film. There's
Mhm.
just a dozen or so. Um, but even still going through all those interviews, it was necessary to kind of understand all these viewpoints of Ben's story and figure out kind of, well, where is the truth in this? What was he really going through? And what parts do we need to focus on? It was invaluable to have all those interviews there to fall back on and be able to use that as research. The truth is his story. I mean, you could have done probably a doc series about the guy. Like there's enough things that you could have done probably, 3 or 4 1 hour episodes, and that was, considered, but it just seemed like the best approach to me was, let's we're just going to focus on the best of the best, and we're going to do that, and there's great stuff that's not in the film, but the great thing is that Ben is a public speaker. He's still he has there's other things he can share now to supplement the film. I don't know that I would say it was like it wasn't like a hard experience in that it was like just all discouraging and stuff. It was hard in that um it was just like it was a huge challenge, a huge puzzle to try to figure out. It took so much time and so much help. Couldn't have done it without people at producers and my family and everything, all the support we had. But I'm really proud of the end result. I hope that people connect with it.
So, what was your favorite part? You've talked about the hardest part. What was your favorite part about filming this movie about Ben?
Um, People haven't seen the film right yet,
Right.
but if you the trailer is out there. If you look up "Stand Out: The Ben Care Story," the trailer's out there. If you
I'll
see
put
it,
it in the notes too.
oh, perfect. We needed somebody to play a young Ben because there were
Mm,
just moments of Ben's life that we needed something to show visually. We thought doing some kind of recreation would be appropriate and would be good, but we had there's nobody that looks like Ben. Like he's very unique looking with the syndrome he has,
hmm.
and it's a rare syndrome. And so
Yeah.
we're not going to just put somebody in makeup. How are we going to find somebody that looks like 5-year-old Ben? And we
Hmm.
struggled, man. We could not find anyone. We looked for
Imagine.
months and months, and just a couple months before we were to start filming, and we were just thinking, well, we'll just have to go a different direction. Ben got a call from a family that lived about 20 minutes away from him, and they said, "Hey, we just want to meet with you. We saw you on social media. Can you come and have dinner with us? We'd love to meet you." Okay, shows up and there at this house, 5-year-old kid with Cruzon syndrome, blonde-haired boy, and not, I mean, not only looks just like Ben did when he was 5, but he acted like him. He had the same energy. He was funny and just like a ball of energy, and it was like a perfect uh serendipitous moment of seeing this kid for him. And so we approached them after, like, he sent me a picture. Holy cow, look at this kid, I think we found our young Ben. But of course then it's like, well, are his parents going to be willing
To do
put him
that.
out there, like, right? Like, we're going to put him in some kind of tough situations where it's like people are bullying him,
Mm-hmm.
or things that, I don't know. And even, or just being in a film, maybe Colton's would be the kind of kid that, like, I don't want my face out there on the big screen. He has every right to be like, I don't want to stand out in that way and to put myself
Right.
out there. But man, the Fieldings were incredible, so supportive. They were like, yeah, we want to do this. Colton wanted to do it. And so to be able to work with him and work with that was a highlight for sure. He did an incredible job for a 5-year-old kid that's never acted before, that's never done anything like this, to be able to come out and do what he did. We were so proud, and like, the movie would not be nearly what it is at all, without Colton and his family. So that's my highlight for sure.
I cannot wait to see this film. Oh
I
my goodness.
You'll just have to
Well,
take my word. It's a good one. Yeah. You'll
I I'm hearing
Yeah.
it. Okay, so let's lighten things up here for just a second. So were there any classic bloopers in your filming?
Oh,
Any
man.
that if you had a blooper reel, you would say, "Yep, that's going on it."
Any
Oh, I
bloopers?
see. I see.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I would probably, most of them would have to do with Colton and me trying to direct Colton. I mean, again, like, this is my first time. I would, if the blooper reel would probably just be me looking like an idiot. I honestly, that is the honest answer.
You
Um,
are a brave man to take on a 5-year-old for your first directorial
Well,
project.
yeah, brave or dumb, I don't know. That's the
We'll
advice
go with
that
brave. We'll go with brave.
every filmmaker's given is like, hey, like, try to avoid animals and kids. Like, that's
There it is.
right. And yeah, we didn't do that, but man, it was so worth it. I mean, so worth all the inexperience that I had being exposed to everybody there on set. It was worth. Do it again. He was amazing.
Well, and I bet I wasn't there, but I would bet that the fact that it was your first time, it kind of made you more of Colton's buddy. You weren't a director. You were more of his buddy, and it because you were learning how to do this together. It was his first time acting, your first time directing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I'm sure that, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it was like a very small set, not a ton of crew. So it
mhm.
didn't feel it certainly, when you were there on set, it doesn't feel like, whoa, this is some big Hollywood production, man. Look at this. Like, it looks like this is the most rinky dink. I'm sure Colton's parents were like, what did we sign up for? What is going on here? But I think that helped. It also helped. I mean, Ben was there every day, and for, like, man, Colton, I think, sees Ben as his hero. Ben is like who he wants to be, like, 100% when he grows up. So, to be able to have Ben there the whole time, and they're joking around. I mean, it made for a super, I think, relaxing, fun set for some in a situation that could have been not that very easily.
Sure. Wow. So, when does it come out? Are there any projected dates?
Well, so we're doing, again, this is kind of new territory. We're doing something that we haven't done before, and so we're starting with a festival run
Okay.
where we're playing at some festivals. We just got done. world premiere at Slam Dance in LA, which I mean,
Congrats.
I don't know if listeners would have any idea what Slam Dance is. It's a very big festival, like literally 10,000 films submitted, and they pick like 130 or something. Um, and anyway, we were honored to do that, to be there. It was amazing premiere. We had like we sold it out. Had I mean, it was standing ovation at the end, and Ben led everybody in a chant. I mean, it was a madhouse in there.
Football game.
Yeah. And it was on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m., by the way. So, like, that's pretty hard to get people to a movie theater at 9 a.m., but we did it. We packed the house. So, um, and then we were lucky. Ben actually won the Spirit of Slam Dance Award, which it's kind of like one of their biggest awards they give out. It was a, huge moment, amazing to see. So anyway, we're starting with a festival run here.
Sure.
Next up is the next festival that we're going to be in is actually in St. George. So we're going to play at Desertscape Film Festival in St. George. I believe our screening will be possibly the 19th of April is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And then a couple days after that, we're heading to Iowa, to Dubuque, to play at a festival there in wrestling country. We've kind of tried to strategically, add in a few places that there's a big wrestling community, because even though this is not a wrestling film, wrestling certainly plays a part in it. I think wrestlers will be one audience that we'll find something they enjoy in the film. So
I'm sure.
anyway, so yeah, we have those festivals, and then probably a few more in the future. And then the hope is that in the fall, we'll start a theatrical run, and likely start in smaller, just a few theaters, and try to build and go out. But not exactly sure yet. We're still working on it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be watching for it.
But yeah, if people, I mean, it is, we're talking about something that's months away from being able to be publicly viewed. So
Sure.
if people want to, learn more about it, or stay updated, standoutfilm.com is the website, and we post all the news there.
Fantastic. Oh, this is so exciting for you. I'm so excited that everything seems to be coming together. And I mean, I was sold in the first 2 seconds that I was watching the trailer. So now I'm 115% sold. So it sounds like a very worthy cause to have for your first directing project.
Couldn't have picked a better subject, or better guy, better human. I mean, he has an amazing story. We've had people, feedback that has come back, said like, oh man, that was like that boy from Wonder turned out to be Rocky, like, I mean, it's that kind of a film. Like, it's seriously, what would happen if a boy with Cruzon syndrome became Rocky, man? That's Ben Care. And so, anyway, we're just so excited to be able to share it with people. I wish it was here already, but we got to wait just a little bit.
Gotta wait. Gotta wait. Well, it sounds like it'll be worth that wait.
I hope so.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope that you've been inspired, because I sure have. My goodness, this has been quite the interview. Thank you so much, Tanner, for coming on and sharing your experiences, and not being afraid to talk about the fact that you work with your dad.
Hey man, anytime. Most people, you should have introed me as, this is TC's son, because that's how most people know me. I don't think they know my name. And so anyway, happy to be TC's son. Happy to be on your podcast.
You want me to put a little blurb in, and I can cut it in?
Yeah, please do. Please, yeah, TC's son. Yeah, and then in really small letters, Tanner. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That'll be
As the
perfect.
youngest of 6, I understand that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, wherever you are in your day, morning, afternoon, or evening, we hope that it's being fantastic to you and that you know how important you are. Remember, you're loved. Remember that you are important. You matter. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.